Hey, this is Reagan Boggs, and I want to take a few minutes to talk about some things that's kind of personal. And, I really appreciate the folks who've reached out to me and told me how much that reading my story on my website has helped them, or they just appreciated me being able to open up and talk about some of that part of my life. I'm going to admit that that's not easy for me. I'm a private person, and writing that bio for this website was a bit of a challenge, and it was a bit of a push for me. I write songs and I write little stories sometimes about things, and I can kind of a lot of times put those in the guise of it's not about me, it's about a friend. You don't really have to own up to it and say that it's about yourself. So that's different for me. And, I did mean what I said in the bio about that I really wanted to help people and make a difference in people's lives. And I mean that very much. And I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. And I know that really the only way that I can help people through the hard parts of this, and not just as a coach after the fact, like I want to do as well, but is through sharing my story. And there is a lot to it, so maybe I'll just kind of document some of this stuff a little bit at a time. I'll start out by telling you that I had no idea that there was a diagnosis or a disorder called adult children of alcoholics. I didn't know, and I don't know if everyone does. I had no clue. It was really, it took me a long time to get to that point. I just realized that some things were wrong. And the first thing that I started doing, because I'm a writer, and this may be something that could help you, is I just started keeping a journal. I would write in it every day. And I would talk about what was going on in my head, how I was feeling about things. I was confused. I needed answers. I was searching for answers. And I talked about in my bio that I read like 50 books, and that's doubled since I wrote that down, or since I really started this journey. I mean, I have really been an avid researcher and trying to find out what goes on in this process. So maybe I'm educating you really yourself that this is a condition. And nobody likes labels, right? I don't like labels. I am totally anti-label. It really doesn't sit well with me. I don't believe in disorders. I think everybody has things that they deal with. I mean, there's mental things. I guess you have to put a label to and call it something. That way you'll know how to deal with it and how to help. So that was just something I had to get over, because I just, that's something I don't naturally... it just doesn't feel good. So I want to talk a little bit. I want to read a little bit from, I don't know if you realize this, but they have a 12-step program for adult children of alcoholics, just like they do the alcoholics. This is a book that I bought early on, if you can see this. I didn't go through an official 12-step program through Al-Anon or anything like that. This was, in the beginning, this was very much a personal thing for me. I don't naturally reach out to others for help, for anything. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but at least by telling you kind of where I was going, where I went, if I can save you any time, I want to be able to do that. But, something they talk about in this book, out of everything that I went through in this book, this piece really hit me, or just resonated so much. And they talk about how a lot of people that end up in these 12-step programs finally getting to a point where they want to start turning things around is they hit a bottom. And there's a couple paragraphs in here I want to read about hitting bottom. This book I got on Amazon. If you want to get yourself a copy, I just purchased this online. and really I had no idea what to expect from it, or if it would really help. But I want to share this. It says, hitting a bottom can occur before the adult child attends his first meeting, or it can occur after arriving here at the beginning of this 12-step process of recovery. Some ACA members reach a bottom after years in recovery. Hitting a bottom can involve losing everything and becoming homeless, or it can be a feeling of extreme suffocation brought on by our obsessive need to control others. Some ACA bottoms can be a chronic sense of aloneness in which the adult child never feels joy and never really connects with others in a meaningful manner. Many adult children have become literally paralyzed in recovery because of their inability to let go and trust themselves or others. Our bottoms can involve a compulsion or obsession for another person. The obsession is so maddening that we think we will go insane unless we have this person in our lives. While we are focusing on another person, the pain we are feeling is actually the abandonment rupture from our childhood. Our compulsion for another person is the re-feeling of the original rupture from our parents shaming us or abandoning us as children. The soul wound does not get better with pills, drugs, sex, or other forms of diversion. If we survive this compulsion, we tend to repeat it in the next relationship unless we ask for help and accept it. ACA's steps get at this wound and heal it with the higher power's grace. All bottoms have meaning, and all bottoms can be a starting point for a new way of life. There is hope. Healing is possible. And I'm like, wow. And that really meant a lot. I don't know if that means anything to you, but for me, that was serious stuff. And that by naming it and those words that, you hit bottom, you hit a bottom, whatever triggers that bottom, that there is hope, that there is healing, and that you can find that path to healing. And it's a process just like the alcoholic goes through. And that seemed weird to me, that you would have to go through a 12-step process just like an alcoholic would, and you had no addiction. And anyway, I did go through some of these. If you're interested in going through those 12 steps, if you want to find a program, people that can support you, give it a try. I think it would be well worth giving it a try. From my journaling early on, and I'm just going to talk a little bit today because I just want to keep this under 20 minutes, is some of the beginnings of when I just started digging into this stuff and learning about it. And I'm going to put I'll put some links to where you can get some of these books if you're interested in learning more about them. Because I do reference from time to time in my journaling some books and some things that really did stand out for me. I feel strange kind of sitting here reading to you in a video, but I can't memorize this though, so I'm going to have to read it, so I apologize. I assumed my childhood had negative and positive effects on my life, but I had no idea there was actually a term for what I had been through. I don't remember how I found out exactly, but it was only within the past 2 years. I'm going through a very emotional time right now, and I'm tired of the way I feel. And I have been desperately looking for answers. I have been listening to self-help books about unleashing my inner badass, books about Buddhism and meditation, and then I came across a few books that explained ACOA. There was an article written online by Deb Owens that listed the top 10 traits, and I wrote them down. I have some of these on my website too, but these are worded a little differently than the ones I have on there. I'll go ahead and read them. Judge themselves without mercy, constantly seek approval and affirmation, feel like they are different from other people. That one really hit me. I don't know why. I really do feel different. Super responsible, yeah, or irresponsible. They can be both sides of that. have difficulty having fun, take themselves very seriously, have difficulty with intimate relationships, overreact to changes over which they have no control, are extremely loyal even in the face of evidence that the loyalty is undeserved. And I felt some degree of identification with all those, to some degree. I don't know how you rate that, if it matters, but if you feel it in your heart, you're like, oh wow, and I did. And so here I was like, well, oh holy crap, I'm guilty of every one of those. So I decided to delve further. That's when I bought a book called Perfect Daughters. And so I'm going to pull out that book, what I think applies to me, and lay it out here. And I'm obviously not a professional or a therapist, so here I am trying to self-diagnose, Google diagnose myself, as they say, because at this point I really wasn't ready. I really didn't have enough information to go with anybody to even know what to ask them for help about. I just knew something was off, had no idea what. So in this book, Dr. Ackerman lists several different types of daughters women generally fall into. I didn't know that there was classifications. They actually break these down depending on what role you were in when you grew up in this atmosphere. If you were, sometimes the older child tended to be the more responsible, and kind of ended up into what they call the hero role, because you kind of had to be the grown-up because your mom or whoever the alcoholic was, in this case the alcoholic was my dad, so my mom, her world revolved around him. The entire family dynamic did, because we didn't know what to expect from one minute to another, how he was going to be, if we were going to have to run, if we were going to have to, whatever that is. But there's different roles based on whether you're an older child, whether you're a middle child, whether you were younger, depending on, and that was something I had no clue about. You wonder why sometimes in a family that people kind of turn out different. You're like, well, I kind of dealt with it okay. I mean, I didn't end up an addict. Luckily I didn't marry an abusive person who beat me, and and then you have other people in the family who's struggled all their lives with that tendency to be an addict, or needing to be the center of attention, to be part of the peer groups, and all the pressures that go along with needing to be a part of something. And it all really depends on what position you played as a soldier in that house. And you have the ones that are over responsible, who, like I said, did take on a lot of the responsibility that the parent did. They felt they were parenting their siblings. And then you had some who felt like they were just completely invisible, or made themselves invisible because it was easier. So you have different survival tendencies based on your personality, and that draws out these different pieces and traits. And if you want, I may try to find a website that explains that, and I'll link that down below too, because I resonated with the hero overachiever kind of person, and also what Dr. Ackerman talked as the what did he call it, the hyper mature, which kind of goes into being super responsible. I'll put a link to that book. I'm not going to read through these because this is personal for me, and I was reading this and I was finding in this book which ones I felt that really hit home for me. So at the end of kind of going through that stuff, I just felt relieved that things could have been a lot worse, but I knew something was still off, and I still was not willing or ready to go for help yet. I just needed more information. And I want to read a little bit. I've got about 3 more minutes, so I want to talk a little bit about this. Another book that I started reading called Recovery, A Guide for Adult Children of Alcoholics. And I put myself, after reading this, I kind of identified myself as emergent awareness. It's like okay, this is the piece that I'm in. I kind of have realized that this exists now, and I'm curious about it and how it relates to me personally. So these are things that stand out to me, and some of the things that I picked out of this book, and this is what I did through the whole journaling process. I would write about things that I was feeling that day, and then I would go and things that I had read or that had really helped me in some way, I would document that. And so I said, when adjuster children grow up, they become adjuster adults. Like adjuster children, they pride themselves on being flexible. Few things seem to bother them. They do, however, continue to avoid taking charge, and cannot maintain decisions easily. I do that. I remember making notes. I was like, well, I do that. The rules of childhood, don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, often become the laws of adulthood. Although they seldomly fully trust anyone, they can be excessively and inappropriate loyal, which we talked about earlier. This is an interesting question because at first blush, many adult children of alcoholics seem to have it all together. And this is the piece that really stood out for me because that's where I came into this. It's like, what in the hell? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm okay. Most of them look good, dress well, appear successful, and are admired. Adept at pleasing, conforming and smiling. Many seem picture book perfect. They are prone to learning disabilities, attention deficit disorders, anxiety, and attempted and completed suicides, eating disorders, and compulsive achievement. So that's some other things that I copied over. They just feel the pain and suffer without meaning. They appear in physicians' offices with complaints of tension, fatigue, malaise, or other stress-related problems like migraine headaches, colitis, or ulcers. Adult children of alcoholics make up a large percentage of psychotherapist caseloads. In their contacts with mental health professionals, adult children of alcoholics are often misdiagnosed and unrecognized because their coping style tends to be approval-seeking and socially acceptable. And they themselves do not recognize the source of their distress. So they'll go in there for depression and a lot of other things, and they'll get treated for depression, a lot of other things, and the core problems never really get dealt with. So that's something that really kind of stood out. Adult children may find that acknowledging their personal needs leads them to feel guilty because they have learned to regard their needs as an imposition to others. But anyway, I went on and read more in that book. I'll put a link to that below. That book really has a lot of great information. There's a lot of information about this stuff that you can find. And I created a Bill of Rights after that. I don't know where I got this Bill of Rights. I don't know if it came out of the book or if it came off of a website or something. And I apologize, I don't know where it came from. I have the right to all those good times that I have longed for all the years and didn't get. I have the right to joy in this life, right here, right now. Not just a momentary rush of euphoria, but something more substantial. I have the right to relax and have fun in a non-alcoholic and non-destructive way. I have the right to actively pursue people, places, and situations that will help me in achieving a good life. I have the right to say no whenever I feel something is not safe or I'm not ready. I have the right to participate in either the active or passive crazy-making behavior of parents and siblings and others. I have the right to take calculated risks and experiment with new strategies. So I went on, and there's almost 20 of these, and you can make a Bill of Rights for yourself. So I want to close out a little bit, with this Buddhist teaching that I pulled out of this particular passage. And it's from Pt.1, which I love. She has several YouTube videos online that are great. Pema said, habituation is getting better at it. Mindlessly, we get better at the things we don't want. The more we strengthen, the more we do it. Making matters worse. These fall into 3 type causes of suffering: numbing out, getting even, and revenge, craving and wanting, needing, grasping onto things. And she talks about Shenpa. shin pot and an attachment. Anyway, I want to close out this video a little bit with it's a journey, and it's a journey that is different for everyone, and I want to do more of these videos, and hopefully I can help shed some light for you, give you some aha moments, and it's not going to be very comfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I hope it helps you. I really do, because I want you to get better. I want you to have great lives, and I say this on my website: your past does not dictate your future. It doesn't have to. Anyway, thank you so much for giving me your time again, and till next time.